Have you ever pondered what makes a person a narcissist? We've all thought about this intriguing question. Come along as we explore the fascinating realm of narcissism and learn the origins of this disorder. Dr. Romani DeRosa's expert observations shed light on the early causes of narcissistic tendencies. Prepare yourself for an incredible journey. 1. Parents' insufficient validation contributes to the development of narcissists. Sometimes, people acquire narcissism as a result of not getting enough parental approval when they are still developing. Researchers that have examined the influence of early parenting events on our personalities include Sigmund Freud and Erik Erikson, two psychologists. According to Erikson's view, not feeling validated as a child can lead to identity conflict and perhaps develop into narcissistic tendencies as an adult. In a similar vein, Freud talked about a stage of narcissism where kids are preoccupied with themselves. Neglecting to actively manage the stage may eventually result in the emergence of narcissistic traits. 2. Negative childhood experiences shape narcissists. Narcissism frequently stems from traumatic childhood events. According to registered clinical psychologist Dr. Romani, these early experiences, such as abuse, neglect, or uneven care, can have a big impact on our personalities as adults. The underlying premise is that our formative years have a significant impact on who we end up being. Children who experience challenging circumstances or lack the love and attention they require may grow up to be narcissistic, as a coping mechanism for feelings of inadequacy or insecurity. Growing up with abuse or uneven treatment can have a negative impact on a child's feeling of security and self-worth. They could begin to exhibit narcissistic defense strategies, such as an increased self-centeredness and attention to self-needs. 3. The symptomatology of post-traumatic stress disorder makes narcissists. People who have experienced trauma may display signs such as impulsivity, a constant sense of threat, and emotional suppression. Psychologists have looked into the possibility that narcissism could emerge as a coping strategy for symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. It functions as a barrier against susceptibility. After experiencing emotional restraint and viewing the outside world as dangerous, people may turn self-centered, crave praise and recognition, and concentrate on their own needs in an effort to boost their self-esteem. However, because the effects of trauma differ greatly from person to person, not everyone who experiences trauma will go on to exhibit narcissistic features. 4. Disruption of attachment produces narcissists. The origins of narcissism are frequently found in attachment disorders experienced as a youngster. 3 primary attachment styles are identified by attachment theory, which was put out by John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth: avoidant, anxious, and secure. Relationship safety is a persistent source of tension for people with anxious or avoidant attachment styles, which results in a push and pull dynamic. According to psychologist Carl Rogers, these early attachment experiences have an impact on how one views themselves. Narcissistic tendencies may emerge in insecurely attached people as a means of obtaining outside approval and shielding themselves from emotional deficiencies they encountered as youngsters. 5. Both much and insufficient kid pampering can produce narcissists. When kids receive all they desire without any limits, overindulgence can lead to narcissism. Overindulgence in oneself and a sense of entitlement can result from this continuous pampering. According to psychologist Jean Twenge, children who are overindulged frequently grow up expecting special treatment and admiration, 2 qualities that are essential to narcissism. Conversely, underindulgence can also lead to narcissism if a child's emotional needs are disregarded or made fun of. Preventing severe narcissism in maturity requires striking a balance between meeting emotional demands and establishing reasonable boundaries. 6. Narcissistic parents are the role models for narcissistic individuals. Youngsters often copy what they observe, particularly if they see their parents acting narcissistically on a regular basis. These habits, such as a bloated ego and a lack of empathy, end up being normal for them. Children of narcissistic parents frequently struggle with self-esteem difficulties and a constant need for affirmation, according to psychologists like Dr. Craig Malin. Children raised by narcissistic parents feel like an extension of their own egos as they absorb their expectations and feelings into their upbringing. With treatment and self-awareness, it is possible to break free from this pattern and create healthier, more balanced relationships with other people. 7. Parents who overprotect their kids end up creating narcissists. Children's narcissism may unintentionally be aided by overly protective parenting. Growing up is a critical period for developing coping mechanisms for both major and minor setbacks. Well-known psychologists like Erik Erikson and Jean Piaget stress that children must overcome these obstacles in order to develop resilience and a strong sense of self. When parents protect their kids from setbacks, it might stunt their development emotionally and make them less resilient to hardship. Overprotection can breed entitlement and a self-centered mindset, which are hallmarks of narcissism. Furthermore, it might cause youngsters to become more stress-prone adults who lack the coping skills and emotional fortitude that come from overcoming obstacles in life. Parents should strike a balance between providing their children with protection and letting them experience both success and disappointment in order to promote healthier development. 8. Lack of parental availability breeds narcissists. One important factor to take into account when thinking about the emergence of narcissism is the role of parental absence. Consider a scenario in which a youngster grows up with emotionally distant or infrequently accessible parents. This situation creates the conditions for the child's personality to potentially acquire narcissistic tendencies. Psychologists have studied this issue for a long time, using attachment theory as a starting point. Experts like John Bowlby assert that a child's early experiences of connection with their parents can have a significant impact on their personality and conduct as adults. When parents don't regularly provide for their child's emotional needs, an insecure attachment may develop, making the child feel uneasy in their relationships. This emotional vacuum could encourage the child to look for approval and attention elsewhere, which could set the stage for narcissistic traits. 9. Encouraging parents create narcissists. When a child exhibits narcissistic traits and excels in school, such as winning games or placing first in the class, some parents use positive reinforcement to excuse their inappropriate behavior. It reaffirms the notion that engaging in such behavior might lead to achievement in addition to receiving approbation. When parents constantly give their kids too much praise and present them as the best at everything, it can foster narcissistic traits. This kind of parental support may encourage a child to develop narcissistic traits, which may have an adverse effect on their general well-being in future relationships. Effective parenting requires striking a balance between raising a child's self-esteem and teaching empathy and positive social skills. 10. Conditional affection from parents creates narcissists. When parents show their love for their child exclusively in response to certain behaviors or milestones, it can instill in the youngster a sense of entitlement and a never-ending need for validation. Experts in psychology such as Karen Horney and Erik Erikson have proposed that early exposure to conditional love may play a role in the development of narcissistic tendencies. In order to encourage healthy self-esteem and lessen the chance that their children would develop narcissistic tendencies, experts stress the significance of parents striking a balance between setting expectations for their children and offering them unconditional love and support. The intricate interaction of nature and nurture, which shapes personality traits through early experiences and parental influences, is what drives the development of narcissism. Knowing these roots is essential to managing or avoiding narcissism, as an individual pursuing self-awareness and positive relationships, or as a parent raising emotionally sound children. Understanding these origins emphasizes the value of harmony in relationships with others, self-reflection, and parenting. More balanced and satisfying relationships can be facilitated by developing emotional resilience, empathy, and self-worth in addition to breaking the cycle of narcissism.